Welcome to Philly Coco Presents Side Project Spotlight, episode 35. This is a developer's journey to making cool stuff. I'm Kotaro.
I'm Steve, with my voice.
Yay.
And I'm Aaron.
And we are Philly Coco, a Philadelphia-based Coco Heads community focused on Apple development. That primarily, but not exclusively, means iOS, Mac, tvOS, and watchOS development. Philly's Coco's true desire is to take you higher on your own developer journey. Whew,
Nice.
right.
So I finally have my voice back, and then I try to say something, and it like screeches a little bit. So.
It's all right.
Like,
It's,
oh man! As well, if you didn't listen to like the last one, like my voice was awful, right?
well,
And it was even worse before that. So it's been terrible.
it's a slow road to recovery. So it'll be
Yeah,
fine.
man,
Just
like
drink a lot of
scary.
hot tea and lemon.
No, seriously, people were worried about me. I
yeah?
was worried about me. I was about ready to go find a specialist.
Oh, that bad.
Yeah, well, 3 weeks or whatever of not being able to talk properly, and
Yeah.
it's like, when is this getting better? So,
That'll
but
do
it appears to have gotten better. So, just apparently took a lot of time and a lot of tea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Cool. Well,
but that means we can have a conversation today. And what is it
Yes.
we're going to be talking about?
right. So where we left off last time in our podcast, we were recovering from the new year. This was last week was our first podcast of the new year, and we were trying to reorient ourselves with our little side project that we were working on, which is a habit forming app called codename PickleJar. And at that time, we had built the general framework for the app. So we had built a lot of the in SwiftUI. So this was going to be, originally it was going to be a multi-platform app, iOS, Mac, and Mac OS app. To keep the time constraint short, we decided that we would hold off on the Mac app until we finished and released the iOS, the iPhone, iPad app. And our goal, our timeline, our revised timeline, was to get it done by end of March, I believe, beginning of April, into the App Store.
Yeah, April is what we're aiming for.
Yep.
And we're aiming for a test flight build in February.
By end of February.
Which, it's still possible.
Yep.
I think.
These are always considered aspirational because in many ways, side projects are not meant to be. I mean, they can be, but they, for all intents and purposes, you're not always going to finish your side project, and there's not supposed to be this sort of like dread of like, oh, like this is a painful thing to work on.
Although the stuff we're doing here
Mhm.
is directly applicable to my day job right now, or is
Yes.
about to be. So I really want to figure it out here where there's no pressure.
Sure.
So so I'm like finding the time to work on this in chunks, like during the week.
When you say applicable to your day job, without getting into too specific, in what context do you mean?
Like I'm working on a greenfield app project where I am going to try to build it in SwiftUI for the latest iOS version using core data for the model layer. So it's basically the same thing we're doing here.
Whoa. for the app and that's a big app. Like, is it based off of the old app or
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. All right.
I mean, maybe core data is not a good idea. I don't know. I think it's fine because
I think it's fine.
The old way I've done
context, yeah.
storage before, and not to go too far in the weeds about stuff, but was to essentially serialize the objects to disk, which is fine, but I hit limitations on that because obviously it's much harder to query that stuff. You have to do it all in memory yourself.
Sure.
There could be, then you're constantly churning the storage sometimes. And over the years, it's become harder. It's much harder to do things like synchronize, like load the data up from somewhere in the background and then have like all these screens access it because they're all just like reading this file at different times. I've had like run conditions. Like you basically have to start building your own method of synchronizing all the data access, and and sending like notifications around to update things, and it doesn't always work as smoothly as you like. But then if you use like something like core data has a lot of like the fetch results controller and UIKit would cover a lot of the the stuff that I wrote manually. So anyway,
Sure.
I'm basically doing stuff in SwiftUI, and I'm thinking I'm probably going to use core data for the model layer, and I'm trying to do things with as few dependencies as possible. So again, it's the same kind of philosophy we have here.
I mean, it is sort of fascinating. A lot of side projects that I've done somehow find themselves sneaking into my production work. So the lessons that I learned from my side projects. Yeah.
I think that's perfectly reasonable to do that.
Yeah. And in surprising ways too. Like a lot of times if I'm doing a design or a layout for what amounts to a glorified to-do list app, I will still apply it to something with a little more complexity, but it's fundamentally the same, business logic.
Yeah.
So, and that's a poor example, but, that's, usually it's more specific to like a specific technology. So replay kit was one thing I remember referring back to as like, oh, that was a thing that Apple had done a long time ago, and here I can apply it to something in my work environment. It's pretty awesome, as an example.
I've been taking what we learned doing this stuff, because this was like my first big SwiftUI project. This particular project here, what we're doing, PickleJar, because as I said before, I've just been mostly in Objective C and some Swift and very little SwiftUI because most of the work is with old code bases. And so I've been, playing with the SwiftUI stuff, the lessons we pick up here in the day job, and it's cool. I mean, I've been it's a very productive environment, and for me, and sometimes anyway. But the thing we'll probably talk about today is I keep getting tripped up on like the core data stuff, which probably everybody does because I didn't.
Yeah.
Again, I told you I invented my own elaborate storage system years ago with like all custom code. So I'm like, nothing works the same way I'm used to.
Well, I mean, before we get into something like that, I think one of the things that probably we want to do is finish up on. So we kind of know where we were in last week in terms of what we wanted to do, and we kind of treat each of these podcasts as sort of like our retro, so to speak, of like our updates, and try to get back to like figuring out like what we've done those past 2 weeks and what we need to do to get this through the finish line.
So who wants to go first?
So I can start first.
Okay.
So basically, what I did, and keep in mind, we all have full-time jobs here, so our capacity is really limited.
The audience must have invented a drinking game by now, for the amount of times we mentioned that. Okay, guys, please don't email us and tell us how much we suck because we have other things going on.
Yeah,
seriously, we should have an official like drinking game, non-alcoholic or alcoholic, depending on your age and interest.
Side project drinking. I don't know.
Take a shot of tea.
Side project shots. There you go.
Side project shots for a game for the holiday season.
Sure.
Anyway, also every time one of us creates it interrupts and does a tangent like this.
Exactly. Take a shot. So what I was using GitHub we decided to use GitHub Projects to sort of manage all of our tickets and tasks of what we need to do to get to the finish line. Generally, I've sort of organized it in a sort of agile style, so columns of like put things in columns of like things to do, things in progress, things ready for review, and then things that are done. And each of these tickets have in themselves maybe a bullet list of subtasks within that. So one of them is like to do the card view for me, and for the iPhone version, the iPad version, and each one has their own subtasks of things that need to be done within them. And
this is a good way to start because it's simple, and then you can decompose them if you need to into more specific types of stories or whatever you want to call them, or tickets. But we're keeping things pretty simple at the moment because we don't want to have a proliferation of tickets. There's only 3 of us.
I'm not trying to replicate JIRA here.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's only 3 of us, so some check boxes with a few subtasks is fine. Like it's working so far.
This will go on another tangent, so take a shot. But it's just like JIRA is just like the most popularized piece of enterprise junk. Use my French, but just I've ever had the displeasure to deal with.
Oh, that's funny because we're gonna move to that, I think, at work.
I know, because everyone uses it, and I'm just like, just pick a better project management software. The thing is so slow better? And
What's
janky.
Better?
You can never tell me anything. Anything is better than JIRA. How's that?
I don't know, man. I told before we're not going to go into it. We had the whole episode we talked about it, but like I loved FogBugs for many years.
Sure.
But they have left that to die in very specific ways that make it unusable anymore for us. Like they still haven't updated certain integrations. So
Monday,
we're stuck.
Piccolo Tracker, Basecamp. I don't know. Pick one.
Basecamp, yeah, right. Basecamp. That's very opinionated.
Basecamp is responsive. Like
yeah,
the
I know.
UI feels
I like Basecamp.
Far snappier than JIRA, which I like. You click on a ticket, you wait for the damn thing to load.
Is it all JIRA or just your JIRA?
Every JIRA I've ever managed.
Well, I'm looking forward to this.
Had the nightmare of being slow, and it gets worse in peak hours because everybody's hitting it at the same time. So if you want to edit a ticket, you have to go to the drop down, click on edit. It opens up a modal that is in of itself like a trial of like patience. Like if I have this thing where I do, because I have this opinion that speed is a feature. Speed is a feature. I don't care about making something pretty as much as some people accuse me of caring. I don't care about the visual wow. What I care about is getting stuff done. Right? As a user of your product or some product.
Yeah. You don't want to be stuck waiting for your tool.
Right. I don't want to be waiting. Manager. Like I will literally in my mind tick and count down how long it takes before I can use a certain part of a product. This is how I judge a good product. If it takes me forever to use your tool, it's a bad tool.
Well, I mean, JIRA, Atlassian owns Trello, right?
Sure.
And Trello started as a different code base, but Trello's fast.
Trello's a lightweight product. I mean, I get that it's not as full featured but it's flexible. It can be what you want it to be for a good chunk of 80% of what you need it for. JIRA feels to me like it is designed for busy work. It is designed to make you take forever to type in all your stories, to wait for every drop down to load dynamic information. It's just it feels like a product of like late 1990s, early 2000s UI metaphors.
Oh, wow. I'm so looking forward to this.
And it is only a step above SharePoint.
Oh God, no! SharePoint gives me nightmares. I don't want.
So imagine SharePoint 2.0.
No.
Right, that's what it feels like, and I know, like
you're destroying my hope.
I know this is not meant to be like trash people's product. I'm sorry. I'm really
look. I'm saying JIRA has to handle tremendous flexible. It has to be extremely flexible and handle a lot of complexity, large teams, large amount of assets. It's very difficult to build a product that can cover all those bases.
I get
but
that.
That doesn't change the fact that, you know, what you're saying, if it's true, it means I get to look forward to jank.
So I get it. I get it. I honestly do. And from a person who makes software in that sense, like these people who built that software spend, you know, an enormous amount of time to try to get that right. But you know, the challenge for me is like, and I get your point of view, right? Like this is meant to account for the wide range of configurations and design. But what it introduces is complexity, right? Complexity across the board that I shouldn't have to deal with as a user of the product, right? I just want to be, as a developer, I just want to be focused. Let me see the ticket. Let me see the requirements. Let me see who's the ones that I'm tasked for, and just give it to me in a nice, lightweight fashion. Excel does a better job of this in terms of project management than JIRA. at this point. Like that is my peak frustration with this product. And I'm sorry. This is this is me bearing my soul in frustration, and I should bring it back to positivity.
Yeah.
And thank you, JIRA, for existing. I'm trying to think of a positive way to spin JIRA. You are a very popular app.
Maybe I'll have something positive to say once I'm using it.
Some people love it, and I don't know why, but I think if there's anything to take from this soapbox, if there's any core thing to take, when you build a product, make sure you take speed as a priority. Speed in terms of how you use the app, in terms of how it performs. If the word jank ever sneaks into the conversation, figure out how to fix that. Because jank is bad.
Jank is bad.
Okay. You never want to hear that from your product. Ever.
No.
In fact, when you see something loading in your, whatever your method of approach, do a countdown to see how long it takes between it loading and you actually able to do work on that product. And if it takes longer than 2 to 3 seconds, you probably want to look into that.
2 to 3 seconds is an eternity.
I swear to you, Aaron, like, correct me if I'm wrong. How long it takes me? I swear, every page I open, every ticket I open in JIRA, regardless of which company I've ever worked for that used JIRA, every ticket that I've ever opened takes at least 5 seconds for it to even be close to usable. That's the fastest. That's the fastest for me. What about you? Aaron's like, I never bother.
No comment on that one.
No comment. Oh, see, Aaron's the positive guy. I'm turned into the negative bunny here. Yeah. I mean, we could describe jank in a variety of different ways, right? Slow to use, slow to load, slow to even do just basic stuff, right? Like go through a drop-down list in JIRA is a trial of patience for a basic static drop-down, okay? So, anyway, sorry.
To summarize, JIRA is slow. I'm doomed. When I have to use it, prepare yourself, Steve. That's the message I'm getting here.
I seriously want to be like, I don't want to be that guy. I really don't. I get the feeling like this is going to be the podcast where we're just letting out all our angry baggage. But anyway, it is a hot mess, to be sure. Okay, anyway, sorry. Getting back to, I did the tickets, which, by the way, GitHub Projects, I enjoy. I do feel like it is a close facsimile to Trello in that sense. I mean, it tries to be. It also tries to be like 2 different types of styles of project management or ticket management.
It's I like it and I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I like that it's very cross plot project because I'm so used to tools that don't let me do this. Now we don't really take advantage of it, but there's many times in my regular job where we have projects, stuff's going on, different people, different tech stacks, different like places, and it's all part of the same feature. Because I mean, we're not like maybe a lot of places today are full stack developers, but honestly a lot of places still don't really do that. You have some people work on like the mobile client and primarily, and some people work on the back end primarily, and a database expert. So you have these roles, and then when you want to piece together tickets for a particular feature, you have to like link them all together, track them somehow, or they're in different code, they're in different repositories, because we don't have like one single repository for every single project. So I like the fact that you can have tickets, coming in from different places. I like that you can make tickets that aren't actually issues, because there's a lot of times stuff that's not an issue you want to track in there. I like that. What I don't like about it is I can't find a quick way of jumping like from a ticket to the repository, which I found myself needing to do a lot when I was doing this, because I was like, okay, I need to go back and look at the branch or look at the PR request. And then I was trying to link the PRs to the to the tickets, and there's some way of doing it automatically, but it wouldn't work for me. And then I was trying to figure out how to do it manually, and I had to look it up. And it's like you have to go click the gear and do that. I'm like, why? Why can't I just click the spot that says this is where PRs are linking? Why can't I just click there? Anyway, little UI things like that because I'm not used to it.
It's like I tried, and this is just I feel like it's one of those things where this is our sort of like unfamiliarity with this particular product. Because I want to link like an issue to a branch that I'm working on right now, and I always find GitHub just in general like very very like he kind of like if you know the secret handshake, if you know the secret way to do this, we have this feature that allows you to do exactly what you're looking for, but we're going to hide it in like this very cutesy like. If you prefix an issue number, then now you have access to like this sort of automated branching and connections to these issues. I don't know if that's true, but it's just like one of those things that I've noticed with like, or if you're integrating like a JIRA ticket, there are ways to do it so that you label a branch and then JIRA would automatically pick it up if you configured JIRA correctly.
Yeah, I mean that's you want all that stuff to work.
Sure.
But like I don't know all the incantations yet, so
yeah. So I mean,
I try to do things like I do it at work with GitLab, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Like it didn't do it. So I don't know what I did wrong.
So I think so basically, I've set up the project to be divided into like three different more or less buckets of tasks that I assigned. Aaron would be handling a lot of the review and the settings views. I've sort of assigned it for now, at least in terms of what I feel like is within reason for our capacity. Both Aaron and Steve would be focused on making sure the core data stack, and the integration to that is finished in that sense. And then my task was to start and finish the card view for at least to get that integration of like entering your your daily tasks and get that UI finished and integrated, which that part I'm still working on. So I failed to get it done. I think one of the things that I was exploring, which we can kind of dive tail into, is like, how do I got the UI working fairly okay, but I'm trying to like, I was sort of going into this rabbit hole of core data, of trying to like test it in the preview. And then I realized that you had an active PR already up that basically was doing what I was wanting to do anyway.
The we can transition to core data stuff then. So I'm working on the model layer. I mean, I did some refactoring. Some of it's somewhat duplicating what I already did, but just like in a struct. But we decided earlier that we wanted to be as simple as possible, and I felt like I was getting a little too cute with some things. Some of the stuff early on we did that kind of worked in one place. I was like for instance, we have some view models in here, and I'm trying to rip them out. I want to not use them at all if I don't have to. And with the one place we're trying to use them right now is with like an edit screen, because the view model is doing some orchestration with core data that's a little bit clever, where it's like creating like a child context and stuff. And I'm not sure we need that like for this. And if we don't, then I like to get rid of it, because it's a little bit more complexity that if we're not really buying much for it, then why do it? Because then we have to like abstract it and do it for any other screens, and then it can start getting complicated. So I'm trying to we decided we try to do it the Apple way, whatever that is. And so I did some refactoring on stuff. We have models from core data, and the models are they classes?
They're classes.
Yeah, we have classes. So in the models, I created a did I create a protocol, or did I create a base class? I think it's a base class, right? Because they're classes that has a little bit of functionality.
Like a base.
We have like a base model class. I think I renamed it model in one of my branches because I keep renaming things because naming's hard. But
naming is hard.
Anyway, we created that. Just encapsulates a little bit of functionality, like it can save itself. It just got a little bit of integration for make it easier to work with. But and we're using, and that's where also you put your fetch requests. And then we're bringing it in. We're doing queries with fetch results wrappers. That's fine. That all works. It's pretty clean, actually. And the problem I have is creating and like editing the objects within a SwiftUI view. So what I wanted to ask you guys was like, what is a good pattern that you use? Because I don't have the experience with SwiftUI, and traditionally what I would expect to do is if it was like a regular database, I'd have some class or something, right, that had methods on it, and I'd call them, and I have like a standard layers. But here, I feel like things are a little weird because SwiftUI wants you to use the model directly. That's why I'm trying to get rid of all the intermediaries. There's so much infrastructure set up, so when you get a core data model, you can just use it as an observable object. You can just observe it. You can bind the properties of it. It's, and then so theoretically we should be able to do is get the model, change its properties, and then call save, and it'll save itself into the context with the little model base model function I put in there, and then it should be pretty easy. But I got in the problem where I was trying to separate out our goal, our initial edit and create screen for goals, and split it into multiple views. There's another thing I think about with SwiftUI is I think the intention is that you don't do what I did first, which was to make one screen that tries to create and edit at the same time, because it requires you to be a little clever with things. And once you start being clever, then it's hard to reason about what's happening. Mm-hmm. And then you have to start having all these little like if else statements everywhere, and you're like, that feels wrong to me, because I feel like SwiftUI, it really wants everything is like immutable state, and everything is like, and I feel like you should try to break it down as small as possible so it's clear to reason about. So I was going to okay, I'll just break this up because they're very similar screens. So I'll just take the commonality stuff, the common stuff, and then maybe break it out into 2 views, bring in most of the common stuff. And I started doing this, but then I got into a problem of like, I couldn't get saving stuff to work. I don't know what I was doing wrong. But I got to the point where I was like, okay, how do I want to actually create like a goal object, like a new goal in core data and save it? Because all the examples and stuff you get from Apple, what little you can find, they just kind of do things the very, very straightforward way. Like you create the model object, you set its properties, you do like do a do catch block, and you hit save, and it's like, but what we need to be able to do is have a cleaner interface for creating, editing objects, saving them, and catching the exceptions. That's another thing I was thinking about. Like at some point there will be an error happening, or we'll have to do like a network request. Steve. Potentially, it's like what do you do when there's an error?
We never have those problems.
Well, what I'm saying is in other times, what I'll do is exceptions. I'll often structure a project in different languages to like bubble up to a common location and then do something to react to it. But in this case, I tried doing that. I tried like, okay, what if I just let it like throw an error, and then like Xcode's squawking at me to tell me it's unhandled, and I'm like, I know it's unhandled, but if it's squawking at me, it apparently is not the way it thinks that I should be doing this. So anyway, long story short, what do you guys do to integrate the creation of and updating of core data models in a SwiftUI view in a relatively clean way? Or do you just new up the object and just do it, and I'm just overthinking it?
So here's the trapping of side projects, right? You're not unless you're one of the cool coders out there. There's a good hot chance that you're taking the shortest route to success.
Well, that is basically my attitude right now. I'm like, what is the shortest path to success? But
AKA creating private functions in the views themselves, which is horrible.
Which is what we did, which we're doing right now to start with. And I'm like, the problem again with that is that I need something that's a little more abstract, because we have to make a whole bunch of views. I don't want to repeat myself.
I guess it's kind of a fascinating question in some ways, because like even either you can do it in the persistence your core data stack if you wanted to, or you could do it within the model as a model extension function itself, maybe like a convenience. Like sometimes it might make sense to make a convenience function, because they technically have convenience functions already built in every core data model. Yeah, and I'm not of the opinion, like there are a lot of people who of the opinion like because core data will do, if you let it, by default it will code gen those convenient methods for you. So you can do stuff like fetch, of the model, fetch, in our case, goals, fetch, goal something, and then it'll give you all the parameters, and it will make it relatively easy. But if you want something a little more, if you want to abstract that even more, you can either create an extension for your model and then abstract that out a little bit further, or you just take over and say, you know what, I want to create my own class. I want to generate my own class and my own version of the class myself, right? And then manage that myself.
I think we're trying to extend the generated classes.
Yeah, that's what we're doing now.
I think makes a lot of sense. It's the easiest path.
I mean, one could argue it might make sense to create struct versions of that, or create some kind of method to do that conversion from, like, because all the challenge with the core data models that come back is they're all reference types and they're all nillable and they're all optionals, basically.
Okay, yeah, that's the other thing about it. That's the other thing that bothers me. Apple's design, and and we've talked about this before ad nauseum, is that the model is directly like in the view, like accessible in the view. Core data's integrations work this way. Everything's observable. But as you said, it's freaking annoying. Like, the optionals are annoying when you want to pull in certain, like, SwiftUI things. It's like sometimes it's like, oh well, it doesn't want to take a nullable object. It doesn't want to take an optional. It wants to take a non-optional or something. And then you need to provide, like, you need to provide some, like, default value for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it gets kind of messy.
It does, and I've seen, like, people create extensions or to, like, create like a like an unwrapped value or some kind of variation to just get around that, and, like, a convenience factor of, like, saying, like, when you return this, don't worry, we can, like, turn it to a string value or something like that, some default value.
I have a convenience method.
Mm-hmm.
It's called with default or something like that. And for a lot of stuff, like, especially things like a string value, you can just put a default. That'll work. It'll let you get around it. But I mean, yeah, if you want to do struct versions of stuff, then you need to have maybe an extension on the model to give it to you. You need to have some infrastructure to go back and forth. And you might be able to make that. Maybe you can make that generic, but then you're, like, going down this rabbit hole of building infrastructure, which is, which also is, you're going to need to be able to test.
Right.
Because I've done this a lot. I've done this whole thing a lot where you have to transition between different like models. And the problem with that is you don't have good testing for that. It's very, very easy when you have to go from one model type to another slightly different one, or in this case, like a class to a struct. If you mess up any of the, like, just the equals, property equals, left, right equals stuff, you can have, like, a bug where you're like, well, why doesn't it not have this value in here or something? You have to track it down. It's a little bit fragile because, and you also have to update every time you update the model. I don't want to do that if we don't have to, because we're gonna have to iterate on the model itself, the core data models, because they're still pretty simple. We still have some more complexity we need to add in there.
Yeah. I mean, they're all relatively minor, but yeah, we would still need to.
Yeah, but it's like you don't want to be messing with the model, and then the model gets generated in our case by core data, and then we have our extensions. But then we're gonna have another layer of models that we have to manually update. It's essentially what you're saying if you want to use structs, and so that's why I'm like, let's not do that. We're just gonna try to use them directly. But then you're back to all the annoyances. So, question: How do you handle saving and error and exception handling when you save stuff? Because that's the biggest one where you have exceptions thrown.
I mean, it's weird because, like, the managed context, assuming that you're carrying the managed context everywhere anyway in an environment managed context property, you just access it directly, so you can do the do catch thing and save it directly.
I know it's just messy. It's just like I don't want to repeat myself in every single class.
It is, but the thing is, like, you still want to do it at the right time, right? So when you press the save button to save a new goal, like you want to call that particular function, right? And then, so what you could do is maybe you might want to create a convenience function for that do try catch, right? And make it like an async function or something of that nature.
I want to capture exceptions in one place.
Yeah.
too.
Mhm.
Because I think we'll probably need some kind of like screen,
Mhm.
this to display exception information in like a human readable way.
Sure.
So like these are the things that's coming to mind as I'm working on it, because I'm so used to working in a quote unquote enterprise environment
Mhm.
where you have to think about all this stuff
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah. I mean, it's good practice anyway. I mean, honestly, that's another reason why side projects exist, is you can do it in a safe environment, and you're not like pressured, right? Like you don't have we technically have sprints, but we're not like, it's not like work where like some boss at the top is going to like come screaming down and saying, if you don't get this done in this time, blah blah blah, right? Like we can be a little more intentional about it.
So you're saying basically what I've been doing, which is the naive way, is the way, which is like
I would say it's like whatever, in this case, like we're probably going to be in like, we'll kind of mix and match until we can figure which one is the one we like. When I did Fave 10, this was during SwiftUI 2. Like at that time, I knew core data, but I didn't know how to integrate core data with SwiftUI.
I don't think anybody knows.
Well, yeah, right.
There's so much debate about it.
That was evergreen. That was such an evergreen thing. It was actually kind of bizarre it worked as well as it did at that time, because I was like, I can't believe like I'm getting away with some of this stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah, my thing about it is not hard to integrate core data with SwiftUI.
Mhm.
It's messy looking to me. It
Yes.
feels wrong.
A lot of times when people want to write elegant code, or they want to do something in a specific style, a lot of that is in service to making sure it's testable, right? And I get that pushback all the time, which I understand and 100% agree with. And I have my own hot takes about tests in general, but I never feel like the juice is worth the squeeze in that regard. It just feels like busy work. For core data stuff, I think there's a value in that, because that part doesn't change, and it's such a critical part of it's a critical part of the data. And data is like money in the sense of like, if you mess it up, if you mess with somebody's data, they will be super pissed. I guess part of my task going forward for this next week is to, maybe for our task in general, but I'll keep it, because I'm actually kind of interested myself into figuring this part out, is to find architectures that we can all agree that feels right, because it's ultimately about feel in terms of like how comfortable we are with using it. You were working on core data stuff. I was working on the project and some of the card view. Aaron, any updates or?
Not much. I'm just trying to like follow you here, guys. But let's get this done. At least a version that works for like
that we're happy with.
We don't even have to be happy with, just like something that we can consistently set all the model object to, and then try it.
Mm-hmm.
So because now we have like this thing that's like half implemented, and
so we need to be able to do that by the end of the week, like by this weekend.
And my focus is to wire up all the card UI in both the iPhone and the iPad version. So that'll be.
Does that include like the little like mini cards?
Yeah.
The like one line ones.
I could do that too.
I wasn't sure if that was part of that.
That's part of it.
I saw that it was like on some of the things that you said I should work on. We're using those like mini cards.
Oh,
like the settings and
well, yeah.
Just have the little like mini cards.
Oh, those components are there in some form or fashion. Like at least the layout work is there, so that part's done. If not, let me know.
So we have to like wrap things up. So for next time, Kotaro, you said you're going to wire up the UI components.
Yep.
Which we have, and I will finish the base. I mean, I'll finish examples of like how to do the models, because it's not like it's going to be real complicated. And we need to get basic full CRUD functionality working. We have it only partially working for goals only right now. And Aaron, what did you want to do? You want to be like a pitch hitter for things, or do you have something specific to?
I don't know. Now it's like the way things are divided up. It's kind of weird. So until there's like the basic, model editing, kind of hard to.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's a good point. So basically, it's on us, Kotaro. We have to like get get this wired up enough so it's usable, so that Aaron can then iterate on some some
Sure.
of the other
I mean,
screens.
if there's any parts of the layout for like the review section and the settings section that might be helpful, just a basic layout, and then we'll flesh it out later.
Yeah, I guess because I don't think we even have like an entry point for the settings or.
Oh, that's part I need to add.
Like that.
So that there's a little like avatar thing I need to put in the top left. So that's on me. I'll take care of it.
But yeah, so you can work on layout of the review and.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, I need to figure out
Settings.
what it is we're reviewing since I mean maybe make some fake data for since we don't have any.
Yeah.
Logging working. At the
Kotaro
moment.
did put some fake goals in to there, but and I add on the models. I'm adding a dot sample method, so you can just get some fake data that way too. And I'll do that for all the models.
That's all we have for today. You can learn more about PhillyCoco at phillycoco.org. There you'll find links to our Slack group, meetup schedule, and contact info. If you're feeling generous, please leave a review on iTunes or any other podcast platform of choice. Also, share us with all your developer friends. And one more thing, what wedding gifts should you buy a Windows administrator?
A Mac?
I don't know. Perhaps you should check the registry for clues.
Oh my God, no! Give me
Here's
flashbacks.
Here's another one for you Microsoft fans. Why did Microsoft PowerPoint cross the road?
Why?
To get to the other slide.
Oh.
Till next time. Good luck on your own developer journey. We will cheer for you always.
To summarize, JIRA is slow,